Greetings, everyone. This is Rock Spot coming at you with the Wiki Comic Book Roundup, and now we'll be focusing on this week's Absolute Carnage tie-ins. Well, this week's tie-ins and one from last week that I forgot about until I was home and the shop was closed, so yeah. Speaking of that, we'll kick things off with Amazing Spider-Man number 31. This is actually the Amazing Spider-Man, or the Amazing Mary Jane variant cover. It's a theme for this month's Spidey books. Actually, Black Cat had a. I got that cover for Black Cat as well. Anyway, so where we left off in the Amazing Spider-Man portion of Absolute Carnage. We're basically going over two stories. One was the aftermath of Harry Osborn being, I mean, part of it, I'll say OD, overdosing, but basically, the best way to put this would probably be overdosing on drugs. MJ and Gwen Stacy are there to see him. This happens back when when all of them, when Gwen was alive, and Peter, Harry, and MJ were all younger. So Peter tries to slip in after looking into the window, and Norman runs into him and just lays into Peter. But blaming Peter for the terrible things that have happened to Harry. We flash back to now where Norman, possessed of the Carnage symbiote and thinking he's Carnage, has seemingly defeated Spider-Man. And Norman Carnage says, that feels like this is a predicament. Because, then, again, he sees himself as Carnage. Spider-Man and Carnage have tussled plenty of times. Those tussles usually don't go Carnage's way. But the question now isn't whether or not Carnage gets to kill Spider-Man, but rather how long he's going to let the killing last. And meanwhile, it turns out that Spider-Man is basically doing all this to protect Normie Osborn and Dylan Brock. But the story goes back and forth between these, as well as an interlude from a few months previously when the Kindred apparently visited Ravencroft Asylum and looked in on Osborn. And he sends a millipede into Osborn's mind as a kindness. Basically prevent Norman as Carnage from killing Spider-Man. Because, well, if believing he was Carnage, he did so, that would be a kill for Carnage, not a kill for Norman Osborn. So, when he prevented from killing Spider-Man, he says, screw it then, I'll kill the two kids. And apparently, the interludes with Harry's overdose and Norman blaming Peter for everything was shortly before Norman kidnapped Gwen Stacy and took her to the George Washington Bridge. And, well, yeah, we know how that went. But Spidey gets up and he goes after him, and he seemingly gets the upper hand and just actually does manage to at least knock Carnage down. Then we go back to Kindred's visit to Ravencroft, where Norman, again believing himself to be Cletus Cassidy, says that explains to him, he's not Norman Osborn, but he hears voices singing songs that said all the live long day, and Norman's one of them. But he's got a message for this guy, and he wants Kindred to know how glad he is to see Kindred. He wants Kindred to know that there's nothing can be done to Norman that would make it all feel like it wasn't worth it. All the pain, all the sacrifice, it serves a greater purpose. And that Kindred is most certainly Norman's legacy, which is what all men dream of. Against all odds and expectations. And also, if Norman were here, he'd want Kindred to know he's proud of Kindred. And he laughs as Kindred leaves. That's the end of the issue. Yeah, it looks like that's also the end of the Absolute Carnage tie-ins for Amazing Spider-Man. Moving on to Absolute Carnage, Avengers. So, okay, first and foremost, the story takes place before, I would say, during the events of Absolute Carnage number 3? Yeah. As well as Venom number 18? Whatever the most recently released issue of Venom was. But it's also a, excuse me. So, the story itself spins out of, let's see, it is actually listed in here what issue it was. Come on, where? Ah, yes. Web of Venom, Cult of Carnage. No, that can't be it. No, okay, well, it wasn't Cult of Carnage. It was a different title, and I don't think it's. But the backstory is that months ago, Carnage took over the small town of Doverton, Colorado, prompting an immediate intervention by some of the Avengers at the time: Captain America, Hawkeye, Wolverine, The Thing, and Spider-Man. During the fight, Carnage took control of the Avengers members except for Spider-Man, With help from the people of Doverton, Spider-Man freed the town and the Avengers from Carnage's control. So, we begin with a homeless man getting turned into one of Carnage's doppelgangers. And as he turns, he ends up joining the horde of them and going after, this time, Captain America. So Cap is going along and he knocks the symbiote right off the dude. Though it continues to still be mobile without a host. Spider-Man jumps in and helps save the day. And Spider-Man also explains to Cap just what's going on. There's a police barricade on Broadway, which, is helping people get out. They got food, water. Wolverine, it turns out, is also involved as well. In LA, we catch up with Hawkeye. Hawkeye's been having dreams, or nightmares, a spiral, and a voice within it, which stings the vertebra in his spine. And then a bunch of doppelgangers pop in, saying alternately either Barton or Clint, just as Cap calls Hawkeye. Clint grabs an explosive arrow. We cut back to 40 Yancey Street, where Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Captain America brought one of the doppelgangers to be studied by very serious gizmos. And apparently, there's a ton of psychic energy being sent to Doppelganger. There are 2 locations in the country that they're sending out psychic energy. One in New York, one in San Francisco. And they decided that they'll all stick together because it'll be easier to keep an eye on each other if they stick together. Make sure one of them doesn't fall, safety in numbers. Back in LA, or Hawkeye, this is Cap's voicemail with a sit rep, and makes his way to San Francisco, using non-lethal force to put down Carnage's doppelgangers. On the 3rd Avenue Bridge, Cap, Thing, Spider-Man, and Wolverine are headed to the location in New York that's giving out the psychic energy, the psychic signal. After a few hours, which getting from LA to San Francisco is not a few hours. That's a drive. That's like if you're leaving in the morning, I don't know, you probably get there, you probably get there before midnight if you left pretty early in the morning. So, yeah. Suspend disbelief. Maybe he got lucky in traffic. So, the fight continues. Turns out the beacon is in the subway. Back in San Francisco, Clint, who's sought to trace her on one of the doppelgangers, follows a doppelganger underneath San Francisco. There being some massive underground city, which was established way back in Venom Lethal Protector. So, yeah. So, Cap, Wolverine, Spidey, and Thing make their way through, trying to find the beacon, while Hawkeye does the same thing. But the beacon's a person, which of course is the kind of thing Carnage would do. I thought, yep, if you want to stop the beacon, you gotta kill someone. And Hawkeye's not doing it. And while Wolverine is always like, hey, greater good here. Everyone, Thing, Spidey, Cap are like, no. So Hawkeye manages to save the girl who's the beacon in San Francisco, while the Avengers, Spidey, Cap, and the Thing do the same thing. The one up in New York. And then they head towards, obviously they then head towards Rex Strickland's headquarters, while Hawkeye tells Cap, hey, job's done. My hearing aids are gone, but got the job done. I'm on my way to New York. That's where the issue ends. Alright. Moving on to Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool, number 3. Where we left off, Carnage, after an ill-advised attempt to break into Ravencroft's asylum, well, admit himself actually, he got targeted by Carnage and his followers because, well, Deadpool's got 4 separate codices in him. And so he sends some Carnage-ized goons after him. Oh, that didn't work out. He sends Carnage 2.0, Norman Osborn. So Osborn Carnage is beating the crap out of Deadpool. And, however, it's all interrupted by Spider-Man. So, Spider-Man and Deadpool team up, and it's kind of working out alright. But Deadpool basically says, hey, look, I'm a bad friend, and I am totally the kind that, you thought so little of, and so, yeah, bye. And so, Norman takes Peter to Cletus. And Cletus is he's not, he's kind of miffed that, Norman didn't bring him Deadpool, but, he brought Spider-Man. So, it's sure, Deadpool has more codexes, but Spider-Man's Spider-Man. And so Deadpool shows up. Turns out that the whole, leaving Spidey to die thing was a ruse. That, Spidey wasn't in on. And Deadpool has it's like explosives in his back. It has like explosives in his spine, so yeah, they go off. And Peter takes Deadpool's upper half out, as appears his legs that are, not gonna be, they're just gonna have to be grown back. Fast forward to weeks later at one of Deadpool's safe houses. He's regrowing everything, hanging out, and Spider-Man is basically waiting on him hand and foot. However, one of the one of the toys that Deadpool has, and he falls, and Deadpool gets up to pick it up, and Spidey's like, "Wait a minute, so you can walk?" And it's like, "Yeah, for the last 4 weeks. As soon as my legs, almost as soon as my legs grew back." And yeah, there's a fight that we don't see between the two. That's where the issue ends. Moving on to Absolute Carnage Scream #3. Where we left off here, the new host for the Scream symbiote, Patricia Robertson, former host of the Mania symbiote, and Andy Benton, another former host of the Mania symbiote. Well, first Scream had to basically break Carnage's control over her. And so she did, and it's like, hey, for now I'm good, but Carnage could reassert control. And while Carnage does appear, I think it's Norman Carnage, because he looks fully formed and not like, a skeleton with a symbiote wrist slapped over it. But yes, Carnage has reasserted control over Scream, and Andy goes on the run, trying to find a place to hide. Basically, as she puts it, to figure out a Hail Mary. Patricia and Scream itself begin to basically try and once again get out from under Carnage's control. But Carnage has caught up to Andy. But Scream saves the day. Well, saves Andy. But now we get a fight between the two of them, which Andy does try to get in on until Carnage makes a point of getting her out of the way by hanging her on a meat hook. And then the fight between Scream and Carnage does not go well, and Carnage manages to kill Patricia. I mean, yet another codex to feast on. However, Scream then goes and possesses Andy, and so now you have a combination of Andy's mystical powers and the symbiote, and well, they've actually they actually managed to stand up to Carnage, but Carnage does manage to escape. And that's where the issue ends. I sadly think that's the last we're going to see of Scream in the crossover, though there is an upcoming Scream ongoing. So, moving on to Absolute Carnage #4. Oh yeah, I should probably. So, where we last left off, the Maker bugged out, but his machine seemed to be, legit, real deal. And so Wolverine, Cap, Thing, various others were going through it and getting their codexes removed, with Spider-Man saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to stay out of it until I'll be the last one to go in. I want to make sure everyone is, since it's going to take me out of the fight for a while, I want to make sure everyone's good to go first." But Carnage and their minions showed up, and Cletus stabbed Bruce Banner, causing him to turn into Hulk. Because, well, that's what happens. Well, yeah. When Eddie Brock went to leave to go make sure Dylan and Normie were safe, the Venom symbiote jumped to Bruce Banner. This is actually what led to Carnage stabbing Banner. So, and the two declared, and Banner declared himself to be Venom. So, yeah, we open up with Venom Hulk smashing Carnage. Then Eddie asks Peter to make sure the kids are safe, while Eddie is basically going to use the anti-symbiote tech this here from a group, old outfit called the Jury, as well as some goodies from the other heroes, including Cat's shield. And looks like it's going to be about 10 minutes. Basically, they need to buy 10 minutes. So, Eddie goes out to save the day. He runs into the apparently still possessed Miles. The fight between Carnage and Hulk is turned towards Carnage, because he's linked with the Grendel symbiote. He's now linked to the Venom symbiote, so he can actually see what's going on. He actually he's able to get into Hulk's head and put some tendrils into Hulk's brain as well. And he shows him just how he views the world. So back to Eddie, he zaps the doppelganger Miles Morales, who is good to go and teams up with Eddie, and the two of them decide to wade into the horde of Carnage doppelgangers. Meanwhile, showing Hulk his worldview was actually enough to make Hulk revert back to Banner and allowed Carnage to yank the Venom symbiote off of Banner and then combine it with the Grendel symbiote, while Miles and Eddie watch. And it's just kind of like, and Eddie kind of has a moment of, oh yeah, we are so screwed. However, reinforcements have arrived in the corner above. Well, Cap, Wolverine, Thing, all of whom are now out, are good to go. And so, of course, Eddie hands Cap back his shield. And it's mentioned that it's mentioned that the doppelgangers are trying to get into the Maker's machine. And Miles drops the truth bomb on him, saying, I don't know what Maker told you, but he was lying. The machine doesn't destroy the codexes, the codices that it destroys. It collects them. And so while we see Super Carnage basically laying out Wolverine and Captain America, while Spider-Man does what he can to keep Normie and Dylan safe, Eddie wades into the machine. He's got an idea. Lets loose all the codices inside of it onto him. Captain America's voice barking orders and war strategies. Wolverine's rage igniting his blood into ancient fire. Hawkeye's diamond scalpel eyes. The Thing's ungodly strength turning his muscles to stone. And Venom goes after Carnage. That's where the issue ends. There's also an interview with Eddie from his stay at Rikers Island during the time when he briefly did not have the symbiote. And some fun points. One, apparently Eddie's prisoner ID number was ASM300. Also, the detective interviewing Brock is none other than Detective Larson. Certainly not Detective Eric Larson. No. Couldn't be that. But it basically kind of retcons in how, to a degree, having a symbiote is addicting. Larson stated, Brock said quite often that it's cold and, he misses his skin. And Larson comparing everything to withdrawals. Then he gets sent back to his cell. Who knows? Maybe Brock's bunkmate can talk some sense into him. Cassidy, something or other. Yeah. And that's it for Absolute Carnage number 4. As well as that is also it for this week's comic book roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal will be found in the description box down below. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. This is Rock'n'Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.